Hi everyone, welcome to the channel. My name is Sage.
And I'm Antonio.
And we are about to move across the country to start a homestead. We found a 3-acre place just outside of Asheville, and we are hoping to raise some chickens for meat, chickens for eggs, and also establish a large garden in the first year. So we're excited. And to us, we would really like to use as many regenerative agriculture practices as possible, as many permaculture practices as possible. So to us, this looks like not tilling the garden. It looks like generating our own compost to feed the garden and mulching it really heavily so that we don't have to water as much and try to build up that soil structure so that it effectively replicates what you would accomplish with tilling in a less destructive manner.
Yeah, and then just keeping things on the homestead as much as possible, not having to outsource. So, when we say source our compost, it means like taking chicken manure and then feeding that to the plants, and then the plants feed us, and then, our food waste and stuff can feed the chickens. So it's just keeping it in this cycle and keeping everything on the homestead as much as we can.
Absolutely. Yeah, and we're also eager to free range our chickens so that they can source a little bit of their food from the land as well, so that we don't have to buy and import as much chicken feed for them. So just to be as efficient as possible with all of our systems. And the giant disclaimer here is we've never done this before. We are not experts, but we're super excited to try this out, and we want to take all of you along with us to show you the good, bad, and the ugly, to show you the mistakes, so that hopefully you can learn with us.
Yeah, and the vision, I think, for us is that we really want to be able to provide a meal for ourselves, and if we have guests, for a guest that comes all from our homestead. Like, be able to look at that and see all these vegetables and this chicken that all came from our homestead, So I think that is just one beautiful vision that I can't wait to let that flourish into something.
Yeah, at the same time, we're not putting it on ourselves to, only eat things that we can grow. We can't grow olive oil. Mm-mm. We can't grow, beef just yet, at least. So we're not trying to put it all on ourselves, especially not the first year. But we want to grow as much as we can and source as much as we can from our land and rely as little as possible on the grocery store.
Yeah, and I think that another big thing that we're looking forward to is growing fruit trees and then sourcing that from our homestead as well.
Yes.
So, as much food as possible is the goal.
Yeah, and a huge part of that is getting things established. For example, fruit trees, a lot of those you won't see anything for 3 years. So obviously we'll have to buy apples from the store until our apple trees start giving us what they want to give us. And it's going to be a lot of investment on the front end and hopefully a lot of payoff a little bit later.
Yeah, that's the hard truth I have to live with. I'm like, I want to get there and then instantly just have all these things readily available for us. I know it takes time. Yeah.
But so today we want to share with you guys exactly the breeds of chickens that we picked out from Murray McMurray Hatchery, which ones we got for eggs, which ones we got for meat, and what went into that thought process.
Yeah, so one of the first breeds we got out of our egg-laying breeds is the Whiting True Blue. And, there's so many different breeds that are good egg layers, and they're so many good for different reasons. And we could have picked those, but I think a big reason why we picked a couple of these is just uniqueness and egg color of it. So the Whiting True Blue lays kind of blue eggs, bright blue eggs, and it's a good egg layer, can free range well, and so just a lot of those things kind of combined with the fact that it's just a cool looking egg is one reason I picked that.
Absolutely. And then the second variety we got is the Wyandotte True Green, which is almost the same thing. They just lay an olive green egg instead of a light blue egg. They are both good layers. They can free range a little bit, and they're supposed to be really sweet as well. They're supposed to have really good dispositions. So I'm totally excited to walk around with a pet chicken on my arm.
Yeah.
We'll see if that happens. I don't know.
Yeah. And then our last one is the Silver Lace Wyandotte. Yeah, and I think, again, just another good, hardy, egg-laying breed, but I think a big thing was that is they kind of, their resting period in the winter or the time that they slow down their egg laying is shorter, And so hopefully, if we have a few of these, you know, our egg production can still be enough to get us through the winter.
Yeah, that's the hope, because, you know, if we need to, we can stock up on eggs and store them for a few months through the winter while the chickens are taking their natural rest. And there's things that we could do, that we could set up to try to force them to lay through the winter, but I want to work with them and with what they want to do. So I'm excited to see how accurate that is. If they actually power through and lay when it's cold, that will be really nice.
Yeah.
And so that's all of our egg-laying chickens, but now we have chickens that we're raising for meat, and those are the Red Rangers. I believe if you look them up on Murray McMurray Hatchery, they're called the Big Red Broiler, something like that.
Yeah.
And there's a few different varieties of meat chickens that you can get. You can get things that will certainly get to size sooner than this variety would, but we chose this one because we wanted a chicken that could free range pretty well. You know, when you're raising meat chickens, you're raising probably like 25 to 50, so it's more chickens than you would have for eggs. So anywhere that we can save on the amount of food that we need to bring in is going to help us a lot. So their ability to forage for their own food is a big deal. We're obviously still going to have to feed them. That's a non-negotiable. Yeah. They will still need their diet supplemented. And so those should get to harvesting age at like 12 weeks. And we'll see. We've certainly never raised chickens before, whether it's for eggs or for meat. We don't really know how we're going to handle the butchering yet, but we're going for it.
Yeah,
we'll have to do something.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, hopefully we can, you know, try a few for ourselves and see how it goes, but I think 50 the first year is a lot to handle for some newbies.
Yeah, we're certainly going to try to handle the butchering ourselves, but we're also giving ourselves the grace of knowing that we can bring them to a processor if we need to. In my opinion, that's not quite as fair to the chickens. It would be better for them if they could live their entire life on our homestead. But, you know, if we're not in that place and we're not capable, then we have alternatives.
Yeah. And another thing to think about, like, when we're talking about keeping things on the homestead and not having to outsource as much, is with this Red Ranger breed, you know, they can live past the 12 weeks. You know, a lot of times when you think about raising meat birds, they kind of just get to a certain age and then they kind of just deteriorate, which is unfortunate, but I mean, that's, you know, what they're bred for. But these ones can live to many years, you know, and so hopefully the goal is if we get a good rooster and some hens, we can keep those and then try to, you know, hatch our own eggs on our homestead and see how that goes.
Yeah, that would be really cool to have as a backup, to not butcher all of those meat chickens, but to keep a few on hand and see if we could hatch out some eggs. I don't know if we could hatch out as many as we would want for meat the next year, but we can try that as an experiment and see if we like it.
Everything's an experiment for us this first year.
Yeah. Thank you guys so much for joining us today. We wanted to introduce ourselves and introduce our homestead, Terra Nova Acres. So if you enjoyed this video, please give us a like. If you want to follow along on our journey, definitely subscribe, and we'll see you next time.
Take care.